We're in the middle of a heat wave here in Greece, and it is hot. I came out to see what the progress was on the plaster. It's going well. There's still a lot of details left to do inside, but it's looking good. This week I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna go back into the archives, and I'm gonna show you some before and after photos of the part that we've got done. Well, nothing's done, but at least kind of give you an idea of how far we've come. It's a good exercise for me as well. It really helps me to see just how far we've come, because it's easy to get discouraged still. You would think at this point it wouldn't be, but it's actually still easy to get discouraged. So let me show you what's been going on.
One of the most radical and satisfying changes that has happened to this house has been raising this back floor. I knew it was going to be a lot of work, but I also wanted to be able to step right out into the garden, and when I was lying in bed, be able to look out onto the garden rather than up at it. I liked the way this central block looked in the house, but it wasn't configured correctly. It had 2 toilets and no bath. So I kept the bathroom in the same place, but tore it down and rebuilt it from the very beginning. When the floor was raised back here, of course all the doorways had to be raised as well. And since we were going to all the trouble of raising the floor, I decided to also make a good, strong foundation for a small walk-in closet. I could have never anticipated how long it would take us to get to the point where we were ready to plaster. But here we are, and it's beginning to look really great. This little loft above where the bed will be has very good, easy access to the roof veranda. And the idea is that it would be an easy place to store sun loungers and other things that you don't want to leave out during the winter. Having said that, I'm not sure, because now that I've seen it, it's also kind of a nice sleeping loft. So I'm not going to close it off for now, and I'll see how I like it. And with time, the house will tell me what it wants to do. Where there were 3 steps up to the back level, now there are 7. It's almost easier to see the logic of the back plan in this form. The chair is where the toilet will be. The central part is the shower, and then there's a little kitchenette on the outside. And deep on the left side is where the bath will go. It's been really helpful for me to look at these old photos. It's so easy to forget the extent of what's actually happened here already. In addition to giving the bedroom a better flow with the garden, it also met the level of this bathroom, which already had a raised floor, somewhat inexplicably. Some of the places that you see that haven't been plastered is because we're waiting for marble shelves to arrive in order to be able to plaster around them.
Hello from my cookie kitchen on Kea. I need to pack this order, but I also wanted to talk to you guys about my summer plans. My absolute first priority needs to be this cookie company this summer. It's what's paying for the house renovation, and the majority of my business is between May and October on Kea Island. The production facility that you see me in here is on Kea Island. This is harder than I thought it was going to be. I want to be able to look at you at the same time I'm speaking, but there's no way I can get these cookies in the package without looking at them. These are acorn cookies. I'm actually the first person in the world to create a production company based on acorn flour. They call me a pioneer. I've spoken at TED twice about my work with acorns. And I was awarded in 2018 in Athens as being the top female rural entrepreneur. So what's next at the reno? Well, we're gonna finish the plaster inside, and then we're gonna go outside. We're gonna finish the shed, and then if money holds up, we're going to cover the entire floor in the entire house with slate stones. After that, it's time for the plumber to put in the fixtures and for the electrician to put in the plugs and the sockets. And of course, windows and doors, that's a big one. I don't know how many cookies that's gonna be. I pretty much calculate everything in cookies, like my daughter's university education. I don't know how many millions of cookies it was. At some point I had it actually calculated according to the profit margin I make on each one of these things. So windows and doors, that's gonna be a couple 100,000 cookies for sure. Thank goodness this business exists. No complaints here whatsoever. If you can pay for things in cookies, that's ideal. My plan is to go over to the renovation. When I say go over, it's a 1-hour ferry ride from here each way, which isn't too bad. It's actually better than commuting in central Athens. And go over once a week for a day with my bike and be working on different projects that I can do on my own. One of them is the back gate. I'm really looking forward to making that. I've got all the wood ready for it. The other one will be cutting the wood for the smaller single bed loft. And then there are the doors. I'll be using almost exclusively barn doors in the renovation. When I bought the house, it didn't have any doors. It's really strange. It's the only house I've ever seen that actually didn't have any doors. And that is because it was used as a taverna. So they had expanded most of the openings. Many of them, they'd expanded far too much. And I had to reinforce them and get them back into sort of a residential size, and there weren't any doors on them. So I've decided to use barn doors, sliding doors on most of the openings. They go with the industrial decor that I'm going for in this house. My house was one of the very first houses ever built in the village, and it was built by the French mining company around 1900. But because it does date from that time and era, I'm sticking with quite an industrial rustic look. So I've been researching barn doors because I want to make them myself. I want each one to be unique. I don't want them all to be the same. And I like to use reclaimed materials as well. So that'll be something I can do this summer. I'll start building these doors. The other thing that's going to be really fun to build, but I'll need Marcus' help for that, is the central island in the kitchen. But I'm going to do that on top of the slate floor so that if somebody in the future comes along and decides they don't want that island to be there or they want something different, if they take it off, the floor will be uninterrupted underneath. So everything has to be done in a certain order. Everything costs money. And for that reason, I need to be a little bit patient. That one's not particularly gorgeous. It's got a little weird bump there, so it's gonna go in the bucket that goes with me for samples. This probably seems really labor intensive to you, and you're right, it is. But I don't mind, I'm not afraid of work. I've never been afraid of work. I think it's that mid-century American work ethic that we have. And when you love what you're doing, it doesn't really feel like work. And I do love coming in here to my bakery. I put a podcast on and I just go into my own world. So here's the thing. I want to hear from you guys. I'm in a very unique position to share information that other people don't have. I've been in Greece for 40 years. I've been living on an island full-time for 20. I owned a restaurant for 10 years in Athens. Mexican food. Best margaritas in town. I was an art teacher. I began the first agritourism guest house in Greece, here on Kea. And then I started this cookie company. So I invite any of you, all of you, to ask questions. Let me know what you're thinking. Is there anything you want to know about living in Greece? Are there any of you out there that have ever thought about emigrating? If I get enough questions, and questions that I'm able to answer, I'll do a live around them. I'd like to do a live soon. They're fun and they're a great way to connect and build community. If you take a look in the description of the channel, you'll see a long list of links that lead you to all kinds of interesting things I've been involved with. There's even a very personal bio linked up in The Gentle Woman, which is a quarterly periodical in the UK. You'll also find a link to my website, marciemayer.com, where there's an e-shop with these cookies and more.
Thank you so much for watching, and maybe consider sharing with somebody you think might want to see it. See you next week.